The Divide is a stretch of devastation, a blistered wound on the earth, and home to the marked men. But what are marked men? How did they end up like this? And why are they still here, living in this unforgiving land? In the most straightforward explanation, a marked man is a pseudo-ghoul. They are humans that have been transformed by radiation, meaning they benefit from the longevity and healing properties that a ghoul has. However, there is something that makes a marked man stand out from your basic run-of-the-mill ghoul, and that is their skin, or lack of, to be more accurate. The storms of the Divide are caused by a malfunctioning weather machine developed by the scientists at Big Mountain, which has combined with the residual radiation of the detonated warheads to create irradiated dust storms of epic proportions. These storms are powerful enough to sand the ghoul's skin, which is weak and fragile, down to the raw muscle tissue, leaving them in a constant state of agony. Some marked men have been so badly mutilated that they can no longer blink, their eyelids sanded away by the relentless storms. According to Ulysses, the radiation of the Divide may be the only thing keeping them alive. Similar to how a ghoul is healed by radiation, a marked man is too, only in their case it is also the only thing preventing them from death, which would explain why they haven't yet left. They simply have no choice but to remain and endure the Divide or die. In order to repel the brutal weather conditions, they have continued wearing their uniforms, which is key to identifying who these men once were. Helmets, masks and armors from both the NCR and Caesar's Legion can be seen, although instead of fighting one another as they are known to do, they fight side by side. So are these uniforms just the spoils of war taken from the dead? Or have the two sides of opposing armies started working together? That I will get to in just a moment. These uniforms, which the marked men wear to combat the storms to some small degree, have been damaged over time, either from wear and tear or during conflict with the other creatures of the Divide. The damages are haphazardly repaired with pieces of metal, signposts and license plates, and anything else that can offer some basic level of protection. As Ulysses has said, the radiation of the Divide could be the only thing keeping them alive, and therefore tied to this place. They cannot leave, and as such they have had to find a reason to continue living. The longest lasting emotion is sadness, and being in a constant state of pain as they are would only make this emotion all the more powerful. Yet they have managed to replace sadness with hatred. They have no compassion for anything that isn't one of them. To remind themselves of this hate, which will reduce with time, they have constructed reminders, mementos, and relics of their former lives to keep their hatred flowing. Crude masks of Legate Lanius forged from scrap, their weapons they brought with them, and graffiti, all serving as a reminder as to why they remain, enduring the endless suffering the Divide provides, where they will have to remain until death, or feralization, if possible, consumes them. As far as we know, only a few of the marked men have bothered to retain a name, or in this case, given themselves a new one. Blister the Hunter, Beast the Marauder, Bonesaw the Ravager, and Blade the Scout are the only named marked men found at the Divide. They live alongside other unnamed members, sleeping in stone huts and eating whatever they can find. MREs, Deathclaws, Tunnelers, and even humans, having set up a butcher-like shop in the basement of a ruined building. I'm not certain when I say this, but their positions do seem to be strategic. They guard the only entrances leading deeper into the Divide, or the only roads that can be traversed, either to prevent tunnelers from entering their territory, or to prevent prospectors, explorers, and anyone else from entering the military installations, perhaps fearing another unwanted detonation. Which brings me to how the marked men were created. During the NCR Enclave War, Navarro was captured, and soldiers soon discovered technology brandishing the same ancient symbol matching those found at Hopeville and Ashton. The symbol was that of the American flag. To investigate the technology further, intrigued as to whether or not they were connected, a package was put together, a courier was arranged, and soon the undisclosed package was being delivered to the Divide. But little did the NCR know that the technology they had sent was in fact an active ICBM detonator, which remotely linked with the ICBM computers, and shortly after, many of the warheads stored below ground were activated and detonated, killing those inside, dividing the Earth, and transforming the landscape into a twisted mass of rock and steel. Entire companies of NCR soldiers were trapped, as well as the Legion forces who had been sent there to disrupt the NCR supply line. Those that didn't die in the blast, or were crushed by falling rocks during the earthquakes that followed, were transformed into ghouls from the residual radiation. In time, the survivors were skinned alive. Some died before this could happen, others seemed to have avoided the flaying thanks to their superior armor, yet they still fell to the ensuing conflict between those that had survived. Soon those that remained all realized that they had been abandoned. Their masters either thinking them dead or not wanting to risk losing any more troops on what could very well be a suicide mission, made no attempts to make contact, which infuriated the survivors. However, in the collapsed overpass is the body of an NCR trooper. His skin is clear, he lacks any signs of becoming a ghoul as the marked men once would have, so this trooper must be new to the area. Inside his pocket is a note. It reveals that he is a part of Bravo team. Their mission is to conduct a sweep and clear operations in advance of the main force, hinting that a larger force of NCR soldiers are on their way, perhaps to rescue their fallen or to see if anyone is still left alive. It has been 4 years since the detonation, making the idea of a rescue mission unlikely, rather a taking back of what they had lost. The facilities, the warheads, and the supply route, meaning it's only a matter of time until the NCR are killing the very same soldiers they had once abandoned. Years before this trooper arrived, the differences, ideologies, and principles of those remaining were set aside, and survival became the #1 priority. Uniforms were nothing more than protection against the dust storms that had skinned them alive. The bull and bear insignias now meaningless, and through the agonizing transformation from ghoul to marked man, they were united, their fuel hate, their cause to endure, and their future unknown. One thing you may have noticed is there are no marked women, and I think I have a reason as to why we don't find any. We know the marked men consist of legionaries from Caesar's Legion who don't use females for war, instead using them for breeding stock and other menial tasks. The Legion forces that were trapped here were sent to disrupt the supply line, a task no female would have been sent to do, so no females belonging to the Legion would have been here at the time of the detonation. The NCR, on the other hand, do recruit females and allow them to fight. However, they are pulled from high alert combat zones with exceedingly high mortality rates, which the Divide would have been due to it being a primary supply route. It was a major target for the Legion, and as such, females would have been relocated to safer zones, reducing the number of females even further. However, this doesn't include non-combatants, meaning any female working for the NCR would have been a scientist, an engineer, or technician, and would have likely been below ground with the warheads when they detonated, meaning very few, if any, would have survived. And then we have the locals living in the Divide. They likely would have had females among their population. However, these people would have been pinned between the NCR, who would have tried keeping some resemblance of order, and the Legion, who wanted to fulfill their mission. They would have been caught between two opposing forces and would have likely left while they still had the chance. The few unfortunate females that didn't have the opportunity to leave would have had no choice but to remain. Some would have taken their own lives, others would have been fought over once they realized they were trapped. Eventually, any female left alive would have been killed to prevent any further conflict between the men, and it is for these reasons we do not see or hear any mention of a marked woman. So the marked men are the remnants of the NCR soldiers and Legion forces that survived the detonation. They were abandoned by those they served, but soon learned to set aside their differences and focus on enduring the divide. They eat anything and everything they can find, butchering animals and humans alike. To remember why they endure the endless suffering, they have crafted reminders to fuel their hatred for their superiors who abandoned them, for the trespassers who come seeking treasure, and for the courier who unknowingly caused it all. Be sure to show your support by liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already for more Fallout content. If there's anything you would like to see in a later video, leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. With that said, thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.